I think that one of the things that cop rock, it's so funny to be talking about cop rock. Oh, if that isn't love, then I don't know what love is supposed to be. And the meaning of my life's a complete mystery. If that isn't love. I never thought of myself personally as a singer or an actor. Up until that point, I had kind of been doing very studiously sort of a play, a musical, a play, a musical, a play, a musical, a film, sometimes a soap opera. Sometimes I never really thought of myself as either a singer or an actor. I actually think that most of the people who were in the main cast of Cop Rock were probably sort of feeling the same way. We loved to sing. We happened to be actors as well. What if one of us is a hero? As far as influences, I'm a Jersey girl. I still can't do a cabaret without singing a Bruce Springsteen song. I have to sing Bruce Springsteen. So, you know, yeah, sure. Springsteen was always an influence. Bowie was always an influence. I grew up with Zeppelin, Stones, Beatles, Who Day. I'm a rock and roll kind of kid. But I've also been fortunate enough to have worked with Marvin Hamlisch and Stephen Sondheim and Stephen Schwartz and Hal Prince. And my influences are the people and the stories and the music that challenges me. So does that classify me? God, I really hope not. I think my audition for Greg Hoblit and Mike Post and Stephen Bochco wasn't too far from here. It was at ABC on 67th Street on a Saturday, and I think I had a show to go to right after. But it was an intriguing TV audition insofar as we got to sing, and all of us musical theater folks thought we had a leg up there.
I'm not wrong about what's going on between you two.
Andy and I have never touched each other, okay? Shame on you for making me say it, for not just knowing.
Vicki Quinn was so young. I was so young. I was 22 years old. Cop Rock came before O.J. Simpson. Cop Rock came before police brutality was a point of common discussion, or legal systematic corruption, racial bias. I think about what it must be like now to be a 22-year-old cop. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that in this climate or in the climate that we were working in. A 22-year-old police officer, a woman. Wow. She was very sensitive. She was very plugged in to the people who she saw suffering, particularly women. I played her as truthfully as I could as a young woman trying to do a job, married to a man twice her age, you know, with a partner who was older and a cop in the same situations, taking the same risks. But mostly what I keep thinking is, God, she was so young. I just can't imagine anybody being a cop at 22. I can barely imagine being an actress playing a cop at 22.
Hey, Vicki, you know, marriage and cops, it's always been a tough one. If you ever need to talk.
I appreciate that, Captain.
By the time I started doing cop rock, I had already done 4 Broadway musicals, and I fully understood what elevates a story through music. A perfect case in point is in the first episode, the scene where Kathy Wilhoit is holding her daughter, and she's singing this beautiful lullaby, which Randy actually repurposed into Faust. It was such a beautiful song. How could he not, use it somewhere else? Which I thought was so great. But, she's holding this baby. This is a moment where you think it's just another moment in time. At the end of that song, you know something you've never known. She's sitting there going, "Close your eyes now, little girl. Close your eyes now, little girl. They don't want to hear you crying." Music is supposed to take you a little bit further than words ever could. And you will learn something by the end of the song that you didn't know. By the end of that song, with the break in between, she has sold her baby for money for drugs. And when she goes back, "Close your eyes now, little girl," she's no longer holding her baby. Her baby is gone. She has sold her baby. That is the perfection of music incorporated into drama. That's why musicals exist. That's why opera exists. And that was what was cop rock at its absolute best. The beginning of a song, you were in a scene. The end of the song, you knew something you didn't know, and it could occasionally really rip your heart out.
Item 7. Item 7.
One of my favorite moments was an open that we did that was reminiscent of Hill Street Blues. It was very, very classic Hill Street Blues. I knew Hill Street Blues. I loved Hill Street Blues. I also loved LA Law. I was a huge fan. But there was this one moment where they were doing a roll call, and it was so special. I wasn't even in the scene, but I was there that day. I had to be there that day. Jim Sicking came over and did a little cameo during this scene. Greg Hoblit, who had produced Hill Street Blues and directed Hill Street Blues, he was there. Steve was there. Everybody who had been invited, all hands on deck watching this scene being filmed. And it was your typical Hill Street Blues roll call. And then all of a sudden, the sergeant broke into,
Let's be careful out there. Let's be careful out there.
and your heart just sort of skipped a beat. It was so beautiful. We had a 187 at the 7-Eleven on the corner of 4th and Main. Steve, we remember this shit. Oh my God. Wow.
You and me in this king-size bed. Oh, baby, we're a sexy pair. Making love on these cool silk sheets.
My fingers running through your hair.
When we were filming this, it was very theatrical. We were so deeply involved in each other's lives. We were going from episode to episode. We knew we were taking an enormous risk. It was an enormous risk. Steve was taking a huge risk. There's something about taking a risk. You just gotta go with it. We were not, at least I was not, looking from week to week. I know other people were. They were concerned about the numbers. Everyone was concerned about the numbers. I don't think that any of us were anything but completely committed to the show. There were moments of frustration, there were moments of fear, but ultimately, we knew we were doing something that was completely truthful, and we knew Steve was too. He believed in this completely. We believed in this completely. I know very, very successful shows that people don't believe in completely. Would I want to be in a completely successful show that nobody believes in? I don't know, but I don't regret a second of being involved in a show that was that risky with people who had such integrity.
I just can't believe you're throwing away this marriage over something that never happened.
One of the things that made Cop Rock work when it really, really worked was the ability for the script and the actors to have the skill to know how to elevate drama into music. We were able to let our emotions rise, and then when it got so big, we were able to sing. And it didn't seem like, at least from the characters' points of view, an unnatural thing. That, I don't know, is that a musical theater actor or an actor who sings? I honestly don't know. But I know that every member of that core cast was able to act and feel and deliver a script until the emotions got big enough, and then they were able to sing. I don't know if that makes someone a musical theater person or an actor, but that was what we were able to do.
You good, Andy?
Yeah, turned down. Black and whites are tight.
We were in situations that I don't even know that people would go into anymore as far as locations were concerned. We filmed in Watts. We filmed in downtown LA when downtown LA didn't have a Starbucks. There was no Starbucks. We filmed in working prisons. We were in some really crazy situations. There were situations that were a little bit kamikaze. There wasn't a whole lot of time to talk character. There wasn't a whole lot of time to talk about, like, making decisions. One of my favorite moments was early on when I was trying to figure out who Vicki was, and Greg Hoblet, such a smart director. He was trying to articulate to me some character choices, and I was listening and I was going, I'm getting it, and we're here out in LA and I'm driving a car, and I've only been driving a car for a couple of years, and I live in New Jersey, and I'm a kid, I barely have my license, and he's trying to give me actor character notes while I'm driving a car, and finally he gave me the best note ever. He gave me this, he tried to explain a character choice, and then he took a few steps away, and I could tell he was collecting himself, and I was thinking, is he thinking, just fire her or what? Greg thought about it, and then he came up to me and he just said, talk slower. And I went, oh, okay. And there was Vicki Quinn.
Anything we didn't already have?
Not really.
And you want to spring her anyway, right?
I'd like to see her not lose her child.
All right, I'll take care of it.
You think I'm a sucker?
I think there are worse things to be than a sucker.
One of the things that really I'll never forget, and this is just like, who would have ever known? When I auditioned for Cop Rock, I had really long hair. And and in between auditioning for the pilot and getting the pilot, I had a job in a play. And for this play, I sort of cut my hair really, really short because I was playing this British punk rock wife of this guy, just whatever. So I had this really short haircut, and then I got this job with Cop Rock. And they went, "Oh, you cut your hair." And I was like, "Well, yeah, girls gotta eat." For the pilot, they gave me these extensions that they glued into my hair. And for the 2 weeks we filmed the pilot and the opening sequence, I had this hair glued to my head. And it was so gross to me. It was like, I know people have extensions all the time, but that's like having somebody else living on your head. That's how it felt to me. I would go home at night and I just wanted to rip all of this out of my hair and just be me. And I couldn't. And this idea of going in and shooting this opening sequence with Randy and being ourselves, I thought all I want to do is just literally rip my hair out.
Days of sunshine, tears and rain, precious memories of years go by. Hours of darkness.
But that said, it was the only time I actually met Randy, and I thought he was just delicious. He was just warm and sweet and fun and funny. It was really, really fun. This cast was like being in the trenches. We were working so intensely, so closely. I laughed so hard and enjoyed these people so much that when I look at the title sequence, including the little punch-ins of Paul McCrane and Mick Murray, who came much later. We only ran 11 episodes, but Paul and Mick, Mick was made a series regular and Paul came in, I guess, around episode 4 or 5. Just seeing those faces, and it just takes me right back to how close we got with each other. The musical rehearsals would happen when we could be spared. We got recordings of songs sung by some of Mike's session musicians and singers. Sometimes we would be able to go to Mike's studio in Burbank and work with him, but it was very seat of your pants. Like a show on the road, like a show in development on the road. You have a rehearsal, run across, and there was always something that needed to be done. You were either in music rehearsal, dance rehearsal, doing ADR, on set. The rehearsal time, that was a luxury that I don't remember. I don't know if anybody else got to rehearse. I didn't get to rehearse, except for a couple of vocal sessions with Mike. When I was doing something like Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman, I was usually given an audio recording with a session singer who had usually a very awesome, metal chick. Why can't a man? And there I was, little legit. Why can't a man?
Why can't a man be more like a woman?
I learned the songs based on these audio demos. And then we would record live. It was awesome. It was really, really awesome.
The other guy just one thing in mind, but I ain't doing no double time.
Boy, just remembered an extraordinary number about about the homeless. And I think there were some parts of that were recorded, pre-recorded, but wow, oh geez.
The homeless people were pre-recorded?
I think that there were harmonies that were there that I don't know that they were able to do where they were shooting it. God, that was a hard, boy, this show was timely as hell. I can still remember that last moment of that song, a guy playing a homeless person just going, "Can anybody hear me?" Russell turned actors into dancers. Boy, I will never, ever understand. I think Russell's best work was in, was it episode 2? It was a bunch of Hispanic men, and they were in this lineup.
Problem, man, cause me and Liz Rubin got better things to do than what you cops say we've been doing.
So beautiful, and these guys were all so hot, and Russell's choreography was so tight, and these gentlemen were so talented, and they had these beautiful tenor voices, and they got overdubbed into these sort of sleazy voices, you know, so stereotypical. I thought justice was supposed to be blind. And meanwhile, you had these beautiful guys. I thought justice was supposed to be blind. It was so piercing, and but boy, that was a moment. I watched those guys work all that day, and I was so blown away by not just them, but by Russell's really hot choreography. He made dancers look like better dancers, and he made actors look like they weren't ridiculous.
You must be out of your mind! Criminal by color, a shadow on the street. I'm a stranger, I'm a danger, I'm the ground beneath your feet.
I think we shot each episode in 8 days. 8 days for an hour episode. It was insane. If you were featured heavily in that episode, you did not sleep. I was very, very fortunate. I lived 3 blocks from Fox. It was really easy for me to get there, and it was really easy for me to get home, because when we were on, if that was an episode that featured us, you just didn't sleep. It was just crazy.
Glenn gets immunity. Patty gets jailed. The baby gets yanked out of a safe, loving environment and thrown into this stinking bureaucracy.
You're out of line, officer.
And everyone is worse off than they were before.
I can't help that.
When you worked with film, it was very expensive. You just couldn't go back and do it over or just hold. You just kept moving. It was really exciting. It's something that I'll never forget, and I wish actors now really could experience for themselves just how kamikaze TV production could be. And in an hour-long musical drama in 1990, wow, it was awesome.
Hi. What are you doing here? Nothing. I just wanted to see how you were.
Well, how do I look?
Listen, I just want you to know I couldn't stop them from arresting you.
I found that the scenes where I was an advocate for Patty, who wanted to get her daughter back, were so intensely personal to me. The idea of losing someone you loved. I had only just lost my father a few years previous. This was the first time I had lived away from home. for a long period of time. I mean, I'd been to school and on the road and on location, but this was the first time I really had a lease, and I was far, far away from my family and missing a lot of my home life. And I found that fighting for this woman who just wanted her family back was something that I was really able to get behind. And those scenes in particular were really, really powerful to me. I felt like I did maybe my best acting in those scenes.
This wasn't supposed to happen. You know, I thought I came here with nothing to lose. Oh boy, was I wrong.
You lied. You said it would be all right.
The cast of Cop Rock got to be very, very close. And one of the best times that we all spent together was inevitably at lunch, because we were working so hard over at Stage 9, which coincidentally is where MASH was filmed, which was awesome for me. We were working so hard on set that lunch was really the time where we could sit and relax and sort of enjoy each other. And I remember one particular day, Jimmy McDaniel and David Giannopoulos and Peter Onorati and I think Mick Murray was there. We were all sitting outside the commissary having our lunch, and all of a sudden, walking past us going into the fancy restaurant was Mel Brooks. And we all went, "Don't look at him, don't look at him. Oh my God, give him his privacy, give him his privacy." So we're finding our lunches incredibly interesting. And he starts to walk past us, and he came back to our table, and he went over and he went, "Mel Brooks, very big, very big." We all just went,
Seen before.
The last episode was just fun. We all knew. I mean, we kind of had nothing to lose, and we just all really enjoyed each other. Especially Ronnie and Vondi, who started the scene that turned into the finale. We just had a good time and just loved each other. And it was, I remember the day before Thanksgiving, which was so poignant. We were all really, really thankful. We were all really, really close. And there was no bittersweetness. There was no breaking a fourth wall. We'd been breaking a fourth wall for 11 episodes. I mean, that's the thing that people don't really understand about music, is you're always breaking the fourth wall when you're singing. Everything is always elevated. So it was not a big acting stretch to just walk out as ourselves. We were just ourselves. It was beautiful. Cop Rock was always considered sort of like this grand experiment or grand failure. And I think that we want to just sort of go in with those preconceived notions. But when you go in really deep, you see just how timely this show was to deal with racism in a police department, cops that commit murder, a judicial system that can throw a jury. This was pretty powerful stuff then. And the fact that it then incorporated music, to me, is just part of what made this a truly grand experiment.
We find the accused guilty as charged.
We are now so aware of how much is possible in television and animation and production and music and incorporating music and animation and production. So much is now possible that was always considered risky. Things that were risky are now almost required in entertainment. I think that if people can look at this as a forerunner and enjoy it for that, I think they'll have a good time.